What is the key to the relationship between a goalie coach and the athlete? That answer is part of a beautiful conversation with Stephane Waite, currently the Habs goalie coach, wooed over by Montreal after he helped Chicago win a pair of Stanley Cups with Corey Crawford and Antti Niemi in the crease. Goalies, coaches, goalie coaches, and you, the parents, will all be able to take something valuable from one of the first goalie coaches inside the pro game. Hello, everyone. I'm Darren Millard, bringing you into InGoal Radio, the podcast presented by The Hockey Shop, source for sports Surrey, and thehockeyshop.com. Along with our little trip to Montreal and the visit with Stephane, we also catch up with Cam over at Source for Sports and our gear segment on this, the final show before Tendy Fest at Burnaby 8 Rinks on Sunday, May 26th. Woody's chatting about the proper way to fit pads. David Hutchison and the aforementioned Kevin Woodley are, of course, the co-founders of InGoal magazine, and it is that currency in the industry that got the boys a few days at the headquarters of CCM Hockey last week. Oh, you know how many people would love to have traded places with you guys? Hutch, start you off because Woody, he just goes on and on and on. So I'll give you the ball first. Tell us a little bit of the 411 about what you guys got a chance to do.
I feel challenged, like I have to set a new record for talk time for myself here now. It's what a privilege it is. It's sort of an annual event now that's happened in one form or another. I think about 5 times I've been there at this point. And great fun because Montreal actually was my hometown for a little while as well. So I love getting back there, and it's a real privilege to get in and just get a sort of behind the scenes look at what happens. And a lot of things really strike you when you get a chance to visit there. We go in for any number of reasons on different years. I think the first time I went in, it was really surreal for me because I was asked, I happened to be in Montreal. They asked if I'd drop by and share Matty's opinion on the youth gear. And he was all of about 7 years old at the time, and they wanted his feedback on the newest iteration of their line, and wasn't particularly concerned with what I had to say. It was great fun. From there, it involved some factory tours. It involved some discussions about gear lines and so on. And this year it was a little bit different as well, where we got a behind the scenes look at the research and development that goes into the gear. And I think one thing that would surprise people, although you're going up on this beautiful large facility that is everything you might expect it to be, the goal department is really just a few people. We see this stuff around the planet, and you assume that there's a force of 50 or 60 people behind it, but it's really it has a bit of a mom and pop feel to it. Obviously not the professionalism, which is top notch, but just the fact that you can develop a relationship with the very few people that are behind the gear that we see everywhere. And so this year we got a chance to get a look at the research and development that is behind the evolution of their gear. And it dovetailed nicely with some work that we'd done here as well. So we were able to compare what we could do sort of in studio for ourselves with what they can do with, I think it was 10 different 3D motion capture cameras to look at puck velocities as they're striking pads and leaving pads. Really, really fascinating inside look into the industry, and talking a little bit about marketing plans and then how our relationship with CCM will evolve over the years. So I didn't have a clock on that, but how'd I do there, Woody?
Yeah, not bad. Not bad. I mean, I think CCM wanting to hear from your kid is kind of like this podcast. We want to hear from everybody else too. Just kidding. He left out the best part, and that's the fact that him being from Montreal meant he got to take me to a bunch of places and eat a bunch of food that I'm normally too health conscious to eat, and basically be bloated for the entire trip and yet enjoy myself immensely. My first trip to Schwartz's, that's the really important thing. And what was the bagel place we had up at midnight after?
Sam
Viateur. So bagels at midnight, fresh out of the oven. That was pretty good. But he's right. CCM really, we think of them as this sort of big, large corporate entity. The goalie department really is more like a family feel. And yet when you walk into the R&D, they share some of those facilities, work with the same people who do the stick testing. And it really is pretty high end. They brought in Ryan Frayne from the University of Dalhousie, Dr. Ryan Frayne, who does a lot of goalie biomechanics there. He is an instructor in kinesiology at Dalhousie, and they've worked with him on a number of projects. So we got to sort of watch the science meet the equipment, how they quantify it, and then how they bring it in. And a lot of the things are stuff that you and I would have experienced in pads, adding the 3D molded layer to the knee stack. Understanding the need to have a really firm knee stack for a solid landing ground and how that gets the pad to the ice faster, and yet also the science showing that it's 3 times your body weight, the force that goes down. For a guy like me at 195, sadly, after the trip to Montreal, a few extra pounds, that's almost 600 pounds of force every time I drop to the ice. So you need that cushy layer on top of that firm landing area. And we saw some of the quantified measurements behind that, and that was pretty cool. So you have that sort of guys that play the position, girls that play the position, women that play the position, that family environment, understanding the position matched with the science, and it all adds up to a product that continues to get better. So it was pretty fun to see the background behind it.
So you were only allowed 2 people?
Just asking.
Everybody said, "Where's Darren?" Everybody said, "Where's Darren?" And hey, Kevin, he's the one who stopped you from coming. I'm sorry. I tried to get you there.
We're still a budget operation, Darren, and so that meant sharing a room. I'm not sure you would have tolerated Hutch's snoring after a few pops with his buddy Michelle from TVA on the opening night. I handled the bagels. The snoring was a little much.
Oh, I thought his buddy was the name of a brewery. Do you guys know what CCM stands for?
No idea.
I know it's got cycle in it, and I know you know the answer. Yeah.
Canada?
Canadian Cycle or?
Canada Cycle and Motor. And CCM was founded on bicycles, but after the crash of the bicycle in the early 1900s, they switched over to making hockey equipment. So they're just thought I'd throw that out there. There's been few owners over the years, but CCM, Canada Cycle and Motor. You guys were able to grab an hour while you were out there with the goaltending coach of the Montreal Canadiens, at least on air, an hour. Spent a lot more time behind the scenes with Stephane Waite. That interview is coming up. Tendy Fest also on the way. The hockey shop rolling into Burnaby 8 rinks, May 26th. Day-long activities, and InGoal, Woody, will be on hand.
You will be on hand. That's where the budget went, Darren. Darren's coming out to Vancouver. Your chance to meet the man who makes this all come together, the voice, the guy who actually makes this sound professional. Darren Millard joining us at Burnaby 8 rinks on May 26th from 11 to 4 p.m. We'll probably have a 2.5 hour live podcast in there. Pete Smith from Warrior Hockey with a long history of building equipment. He's going to join us on stage for part of the live podcast. Alex Ald's going to join us. I think Mark Gignac and Spencer Freer from Bauer are going to spend some time out there. Mark Dekanich, former NHL pro goaltender, now doing training. He might drop in. I think he's going to be at Tendy Fest. Long list of guys. And of course, that gives us an opportunity to thank the Hockey Shop source for sports in Surrey, for putting on Tendy Fest, for being the title sponsors of InGoal Radio and the InGoal Radio podcast. And you know, as far as you've heard me talk about all the things that they do at the store in Surrey, all the things that they do for online consumers at thehockeyshop.com, honestly, there's nothing they do better than Tendy Fest itself, and this is going to be bigger and better than ever. They've doubled the ice sheets. It always has been 1 rink in the past. They got 2 full rinks. They've asked the gear companies, and because they sort of lead the charge on this, the gear companies have responded. Looks like they're going to have about double the pads and gloves that they've had in past years for people to go out and test. And even if you want to just come kick the tires, you don't want to take it on the ice. I mean, to me, that's the best part of the day, is a chance to try out the latest and greatest equipment on the ice, stopping pucks. But even if you're not up for that, there's a trade show going on. That's where we'll be. You'll be able to meet us, talk to us, watch the podcast. You'll be able to see, there'll be goalie coaches. There'll be a live mask painting demonstration, other equipment and vendors. And just, I mean, it's sort of goalie geek heaven. It's 5 hours. Like I said, 11 o'clock to 4 o'clock, May 26th, this Sunday at Canland 8 rinks in Burnaby. Come say hello to us. Come say hello to Darren. Come say hello to the legendary Cam from the Hockey Shop, and just come have a great time. And last, if you are planning on testing gear, bring your own pads, gloves. It's all there, but the rest is up to you. Skates, and we'll talk about the importance of having those elements when you fit pads, skates, pants, knee pads that you would normally wear. We'll talk about that with Cam in the gear segment this week. But make sure you bring your own because they don't supply everything. You got to basically be ready to go on the ice. You just sort of add their gloves and add their pads and hit the ice, but everything else is you.
Is there a lineup? Like, do people get there at 10 o'clock and line up to get in?
Yeah, no, go ahead, Hutch. Sorry.
Well, it is pretty popular. The first year we arrived probably half an hour before, and there was quite a crowd already gathered. I think one of the other things important to mention, because I had a goalie parent reach out to me today and let you know that it's a free event and you don't need tickets. You don't need to go to the Hockey Shop website to buy any tickets. Just show up at Burnaby 8 Rinks with your gear and ready to talk goaltending.
Funny, that was my next question.
If you want to give me and Darren $10 each to say hello, we'll absolutely take it. But beyond that, it's free.
You'd probably have to pay them because of the time investment they'd make in talking to you, Kev. So,
well, less is more in this case when you talk about Tendy Fest and there not being an entry fee, and that sort of fits into what we're seeing in the Stanley Cup final this year. Tuukka Rask guys, 46 games played this year against Calder Trophy nominee Jordan Binnington at 32 appearances. Those are the two goaltenders that will square off when the Stanley Cup final starts between the Boston Bruins and the St. Louis Blues. Tuukka Rask has never played this few games as a starter in a full season in the National Hockey League since he took over from Tim Thomas. So those 46 games appear to be paying off that lower workload. And even though they only faced Jordan Binnington once all time, and that was a 2-1 shootout victory by Binnington in late February over Tuukka Rask, Boston, Woody, may be in the best position to beat Binner. Why is that?
I don't know about beat him, but they may know his game. I mean, certainly better than anyone else. We saw this with Matt Murray in Pittsburgh when he first came up that first year. He didn't have a lot of NHL exposure, and so there wasn't a book. There wasn't a lot of sort of film on him at the NHL level, and that was the case with Binnington. As you mentioned, less than 40 games in the regular season. I would argue as the playoffs have gone on, teams have gotten a closer look at his game and maybe broken down trends. But Boston had eyes on him all last year. A lot of people seem to have forgotten this, but St. Louis didn't have an American Hockey League affiliate last season. They actually asked Binnington to go to the East Coast Hockey League. He said no. They found him a place to play in the Boston Bruins affiliate in the American Hockey League. So he spent, I'm not sure if it's the full year. I think it might have been the full year, but he's been with the Bruins. Last time Hutch saw him in Toronto at the BioSteel camp working with Andy Chiodo, he was wearing Bruins colored CCM gear. If any organization knows this guy's game, at least compared to the rest, it's the Boston Bruins. They had him there for a full year. So, and without going down the list, I'm guessing there's a lot of guys that are probably on the Bruins right now that would have spent time with their farm team last season and would have, firsthand knowledge in practice.
Yeah, look at that Bruins roster, and you see a lot of guys who have been on the fast track over the last year and a half. Yeah, Binner had the Boston mask and those Bruins colors. You're right. Congratulations also to Bob Essenza and David Alexander. Goalie Bob and David Alexander, they are the goalie coaches for the Bruins and the Blues, who will meet in the Stanley Cup final, and we want to give them a major shout-out for another great accomplishment. And it's that theme of the goalie coach that we turn to for this week's InGoal Radio feature interview. Stephane Waite has been teaching goalies for 3+ decades, and yet his first student, going way back when he was mid-teens, just might have been his most important, which is significant when you consider that Steph has coached Corey Crawford to a Stanley Cup, and Waite's second championship with the Hawks followed his first, in which he got Antti Niemi across the line. And it was after his second championship that Steph was recruited by Montreal, left the Stanley Cup champion Chicago Blackhawks, and returned to his native Quebec to take over the goalies with the Montreal Canadiens, which includes working with the franchise's winningest netminder of all time, Carey Price, who joined us a couple episodes ago on episode 16. So here is Stephane Waite, a pioneer in the goalie coaching world, with David Hutchison and Kevin Woodley on InGoal Radio, the podcast, presented by The Hockey Shop, source for sports Surrey, thehockeyshop.com. Enjoy.
So we didn't even think of this at the time, but we got 3 straight weeks of Montreal Canadiens content.
We caught up with Carey a couple of weeks ago. Sean Burke, who's working as a scout for the Canadiens last week, and now Stephane Waite, the goaltending coach of the Montreal Canadiens, former goaltending coach of the Chicago Blackhawks, 2-time Stanley Cup winner, been coaching goalies now. And actually, before I get to you, special treat brings us into the Montreal Canadiens offices. We're actually conducting this interview in the room where he does most of his video work with Carey, with Ante last year, with his goaltenders. First of all, thanks for joining us. And I was going to say, how long have you been coaching goalies? We know the history in the NHL, but obviously it goes all the way back to starting in midget in the 80s. How long have you been doing this?
Exactly. It must be, I don't know, a minimum 35 years. I started in 82, so do the math, 37 or whatever. So it was a long time ago with those poke check, kick save, and two-pad stack, and all that kind of techniques. It's been a long time, but 30-some years ago.
You started coaching at a very young age then.
Yes, I was 16 years old. I knew I'll never be a NHL goalie, and I knew that very early. I started with coaching my brother, Jimmy. Okay. And he was really my first student back then, and I thought I was a pretty good goalie coach at that time. And, the goalie coach business didn't exist. The goalie coach job didn't really exist back then. There was some part-time goalie coach like Jacques Plante and those kind of guys. And I just started to do that on an everyday basis and become, to me, a passion to coach goalie and just want to specialize in being a goalie coach without, without plan to live with that one days, but turns out pretty well. So,
well, and I was gonna say back when you started too, like the goalie coaches that exist were all guys that had played, right? It was all there was nobody at the NHL level that hadn't played at the NHL level. So, did you ever think that this would be possible? And who sort of broke down that barrier for you?
I don't know.
Was it Francois? Maybe was he the first? Or
no, we start almost the same time. I remember it was a goalie coach in Magog Midget Tripoli, and Francois was the goalie coach with the Midget Tripoli in Boisbriand, and so we start almost in the same time as a goalie coach, and we had just two goalie coach in the whole league. It was me and Frank Allaire, so that's we start almost at the same time.
Did you spend a lot of time together? Was it, since there weren't many coaches at the time, were you swapping secrets or were you rivals?
We exchanged a lot over the years about goaltending, but I got my own philosophy. Frank has got his own philosophy, and sometimes there was a lot of argument both sides, but it was always nice to talk together, and that was a good time, a good whole time.
You guys are two of the pioneers of the position. You talk about different philosophies and the evolution of the position. You joked about two-pad stacks back there. Carey joked a couple weeks ago when we asked him what he was working on this summer. Two-pad stacks. Obviously tongue-in-cheek, but as we were talking earlier, there's a place for it still in the game.
You know what? That's at the end of the day, to do whatever it takes to stop the puck. And I don't like the goalie to think too much during the game. Do whatever you want to, and to me, that's the biggest changes I brought to my goalies the last couple of years. Don't be too predictable. I don't like the goalie to be just thinking about his technique, about being a robot. Just do whatever it's taken. And don't think about it. That's why sometimes, you know what, two-pad stack, poke check, or whatever. There's nothing wrong with that to surprise the opponent. And sometimes desperation is huge right now in goaltending. So two-pad stack, why not? So I got no problem with that. And sometimes not because it's old, that's not good. Don't because that's an old style. There's a lot of things I teach 35 years ago. To me, still good. So that's important. We don't practice two-pad stack, obviously, but if your instinct tells you you need that, go.
How as a coach, though, do you instill that ability to pull from somewhere else when you're in a game, to stop thinking and just not be predictable.
To me, that's very important. And, maybe 10 years ago, I was watching guys like Tim Thomas and or Dominic Hasek, and most of the people, persons say, wow, he's all over the place. He got no clue what he's doing and stuff like that. And I start to watching those guys, and Tim Thomas, I say, he must be something good. Because you won the Vizina, you won the Cup, you got a couple of very good years in Boston. And so, you know what? This guy is so unpredictable. Even me, as a goalie coach, I have a hard time to write down a scouting report when I was with the Blackhawks, because I don't know what he's doing. And that was the strength. That was one of his strengths, to be unpredictable. And that's where I start to tell my goalies, you know what, just use your instinct. That's the instinct. But in practice, come back to the basis. Good technique, be square, don't cheat, be patient, rebound control, stuff like be in control. But in the game, don't think about that. Just go. Just trust your instinct, and the good habit will take over, because the good habit you take in the practice will take over in the game situation. So that's to me, I always ask my goalies, don't try to be perfect in the game. Just go. Just use your instinct. In practice, that totally opposite a mindset. Try to be perfect in practice. Everything you're doing, do it right. That's very important, because that you're going to bring those good habits in the game without thinking about that.
Predictability is something that we've seen. I mean, goalies, it's not fair to say they all look the same, because they don't. There's never one way to play the position. As we see kids coming up, though, there's times where it feels like they do look a lot alike. And that predictability, I would guess, throwing different looks at shooters, it must just catch them completely off guard, because a lot of the shooters now have come up expecting a goalie to move and look a certain way. Is that where the value of unpredictability comes up in at the highest level?
Exactly. And, the shooters, now they know how the goalies play. Most of them, like you said, you play almost the same. So that's why you sometimes be more patient. Don't drop too early, or just challenge them at the last seconds, or be more patient, or do something different. That's why I like to practice a lot of different technique in the same situation. Bad angle shots. You can be overlaps. You can go reverse VH. You can go one knee down, or you can stay on your feet. And there's a lot of situation, a lot of way to play the same situation to me. That's why I like to practice every situation. In the game situation, their instinct, the goalie's instinct, will take over and do whatever it takes. So, but that was one of our problem, and especially here in the Quebec province, and maybe all over the country. That's every goalie played the same things. Technique, square, butterfly, just let the puck hit you. And that became a problem. It became a problem for our goaltending, because, again, they're all too predictable. They all play the same things. I want to see something special in the goalie. I want something aggressive, body language, or different, or the way you battle, the way you're unpredictable. So that's very important now to me.
Do you ever take the time or get a chance with some of the other coaches on the team to swap knowledge, to learn what is it that the players are looking for, so that you can bring some of that shooter's knowledge?
Or sometimes, yeah, sometimes that's something, but not with the coaches, mostly with the players. Some players come to see me, or I go see them. Say, hey, you always shoot that spot. Why you don't try this shot? For example, 1 foot off the ice, blocker side, stuff like that. Instead to always go top shelf, because you as a shooter are predictable too. So sometimes
you're helping them too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's that's sometimes I'll talk with some players, or most of them. Sometime before a game, they came to me, say, "Oh, what do you think about this goalie, the opponent goalie?" So of course we post a scouting report, but sometimes they want to know more. And then the opposite, some players, they don't want to know nothing about the opponent goalie, because they think too much. And and that's take away their instinct too.
Who are some of the players over your career that have really wanted to study the goaltenders more?
I remember in Chicago, guys like Patrick Sharp, they asked me a lot, or Marian Osa, they asked me a lot where I should go against that goalie. And some guys like Jonathan Taves, he doesn't want to know because they take away his instinct. So you got two kind of different shooters, and that's the same thing for goalies. Sometimes they want to know all the shoot about the opponent shooters, and some goalie they don't want to know because it make him think too much. So, for an example, you play a goalie who's playing against his whole team. He knows every tendencies of the opponents. And sometimes he's going to cheat mentally. He's going to cheat because, for example, this guy's always go top shelf, glove side. So if the guy doesn't shoot there, the goalie is done. So that's two-way on it. That I'm not a big believer on study every shooters because it makes you think too much.
Instinct.
Yeah. That's all about instinct, exactly.
You talked about practice with the goalies and about, in practice, that's where you want to try and be perfect or you want to make sure you're technically sound. Do you mean just your practice with them or through the entire practice? How do you manage practice for goalies? I know there's been a lot of attention on it here, especially with Carey and his workload, but just in general, how do you manage practice for goalies when so much of practice is sometimes not goalie friendly? There's a lot of rush drills. There's a lot of situations that aren't realistic. What do you tell your goalies and what would you tell young goalies about how to manage that?
Well, that's a good question. First of all, I got to talk to the coaches before practice because, with warm-up drills or shooting drills, I need time and space for goalies, just get set, be square, make the right things. If the shooter's coming too fast or no space between two shots, goalies start to cheat, and that's exactly you don't want that. So that's I got to make sure with the coaches, I got the perfect drills for the shooting. That's the first thing. But after that, there's a lot of, like you said, a lot of drills are not really good for goalies. But there's always something good for goalies. There's always the only thing is don't cheat. 2-on-1 or sometimes that's 3-on-0. And that's the worst drill for goalies. But just don't cheat. Play it like a real situation. And I don't care if they're going to score 8 times out of 10. Just do the right things. And that's my job during practice, to watch goalies. Just make sure they don't cheat. They're patient. They're square. They're set. They're on control. And that's very important. So every drill, even that's the worst drill for goalies, there's something good for them. Sometimes it's just battles. There's out of a corner, drive the net, and everything at the net or whatever. There's just battle, compete. There's always something good, but do it right. That's the most important thing.
I've been fascinated to watch some of the clips that we're lucky enough to see of you working with your goaltenders here. And quite often they're fairly slow, fairly deliberate, just trying to rep in a particular move. Probably not the speed that people might anticipate a goalie working at in the National Hockey League. Slower than you'd see a lot of minor hockey league kids work. So what's the lesson there? And then again, how does a coach apply that if they're working with kids?
But that's the most important thing is just take good habit. Again, like I said before, just do it right. That's not about do it quick and be all over the place or cheat. That's just do it right. And the most important thing when I'm doing one-on-one practice with the goalies before the team practice is 3 things. Always having movement drills. We just got technical drills and reaction drills. Just react. So I always include those 3 kind of drills in every practice, almost every day with my goalies. So I think that that's very important, and that's what I preach to the coaches, minor hockey coaches. So just moving drills, technical drills, and reaction drills. So that always includes those 3 kind of drill.
Can you give me like obviously movement is crease movement patterns?
Yep.
Can you give us an example of what a technical drill would be like if you're working on a post play or something like that?
Just for the kids, just go butterfly, be square, rotate your hips, and get up with the right leg and
Simple
push.
as that.
That's technique.
Okay.
And for reaction drill, it's just could be just glove drills. Just be stay deep in the net and just react to the quick drills or pass out and one timer. Just react stuff like that. So that's three kind of different drills.
So
You know what I mean?
always incorporate. Yeah, that
Yes.
totally makes sense. And you can work through different progressions of each type. You talked about pace early in practice and talking with your coaches about making sure there's enough gap. Do you preach that to minor hockey coaches too? Because that's the one thing we've seen. Like and I remember when you had your shoulder injury, picking the right shooter. So you had guys that understood the importance of giving the goalie time to recover. I see that in minor hockey all the time where it's just the kid isn't even finished making one save and the next shot's on top of him.
Yeah. That's very important. That's a good question. That's something, even here with the Canadian or with when I was with the Blackhawks, I always pick certain shooters because I got a lot of shooters. A lot of guys want to shoot, but they don't want they want to shoot to score goals. And that's I need to take your time, shoot at the right time, at the perfect spot, because we got every drill. We got a purpose. And there's some shooters, they can't do that. They don't have fun to do that because they want to score goals. And I remember a couple in Chicago, the worst guy was Patrick Kane. You just want to trick the goalies and try to pick up the spot to score. That's exactly the opposite I needed. So that's very important. And take your time, shoot at the right time, at the right spot. That's very important as a goalie practice.
Well, and I mentioned the shoulder injury. So this is a hazard of the job that I never would have thought of. But Steph actually had to have. Now, if you had both shoulders done or just one?
I had one, but I need to do the other one for the last 4 years, and I'm not ready for that.
So complete rotator cuff repair because of shooting pucks for the last 37 years.
37 years or so, yeah, well, for sure. That's
a health hazard.
Oh yes, for sure. But no.
Are goalie coaches the best shooters?
I used to be before those injuries, surgery. I used to be. I remember in Chicago, Habby Bull and Nick. Habby used to tell me, said, "You're the best shooter in the team back then in Chicago." Of course, I was before we got Patrick Sharp, Kaner, and Taser, and those guys. But used to be, you got the best shot in the team. Not anymore.
Take a shift on the power play.
Exactly. Yeah. I needed time and space.
That's hard to create that at our age.
Yeah.
So when you look back, I mean, obviously career still going. What are the fondest memories to this point?
What do you mean?
When you look back at you're obviously not done by any stretch of the imagination, but when you look at your career so far, like what are the memories that jump out? Or is it fun with those guys shooting? Is it cut? Like what are the things that come to your mind first?
But obviously there's the two Stanley Cups, and that's the best memories. And I used to go win used to be called the Air Canada Cup, with Magog Midget AAA. So that's big for me too. That's it's not as big as a Stanley Cup, but almost, because that was huge back then as a goalie coach. Always been proud to almost every goalie I used to coach in the Junior Quebec League. Almost all gets drafted in the NHL. So that was a big accomplishment for me. The World Cup 2 years ago, when I was a goal coach with Team Canada, was another big thing. So. But the biggest thing is to work every day with the goalies. I love that. I love to exchange with them. I love to have some argument with them sometime. And I just that's every goalies I used to coach, or I still coach, and they're we still close even today. So I remember even with. Those guys, Nikolai Habibol, and we still text each other almost once a month, and that's a relationship. The relationship I I develop with those guys. That's the biggest thing for me. That's huge.
We have a lot of young goalies. Like we talk about, we ask you to speak to the young goalies, but we actually have a lot of young goalie coaches that listen to this podcast as well. Interesting to hear you say like the arguments, the back and forth, talking. It's a two-way conversation. Like how important is that? Was there a time in your career earlier where it was more, this is my way, or was that an evolution for you?
It used to be like that. Yeah, for sure. It used to be like that. And now that's very important because to me, the most important things in my job is feel like my goalie feels. You got to feel them. You got to feel, okay, he looks more comfortable doing that thing or being more aggressive or being more in control, deeper, or sometimes I know my goalie so well. It's like I know exactly what's going on in his head. You read the different situation, that's very important. So the only way to get to in his head, that's to talk to him and listen to him. That's the most important things. And you got to feel your goalie. You got to think like him. Your goalie has to think like you, and you have to think like him too. That's very important. And you can tell a goalie do that or play that kind of game if he doesn't feel good or he doesn't believe it, and you just create gray area. And that's the most important thing. So the most important things for a goalie, feel good on what you're doing, and we'll go with that. No matter what I think, that's the most important. I'm not in the net. The goalie's in the net. That's the most important thing. As a goalie coach, you got to understand that. And the only way that's exchange. Ask him every day how you felt about that way, what you think about that goal, how you read that goal, how you read that save you made. What do you think about that situation? Every day I ask a lot of questions. I need to get in his head, and I need to think like him.
Foundation of being a great teacher is having a great relationship and understanding individuals.
Oh, especially as a goalie coach, huh? That's the most important thing. If you don't have a good relationship with your goalies won't talk to you. He won't trust you. He won't tell you stuff like whatever, something happened at home. And that's important to me to know. If or he's tired, or he's hurt somewhere. He doesn't trust me. I will never know. Or how you feel on the ice. Okay, we practice this thing, but I don't like that, or I don't feel good on it. So all right, that's important to exchange, to talk about that. So that's huge. If you don't have a good relationship with your goalie, that's impossible. You're done as a goalie coach.
That's really changed over time, I think. At least working with young people, we've found that you have to give them the why. Now, so much more than you did 20 years ago.
Oh, you're so smart. It's so smart. Now they ask, okay, why, and why? You're so right about that, and you got to be able to answer those why questions. If you're not able to answer those why questions, again, as a goalie coach, you're done.
Because I said so isn't an answer anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
I still try it with my kids, but it's not working, evidently.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Who have you had the most of the guys you worked with in the NHL over the years? Who are the ones that really like that back and forth the most, who really want the why, who want to understand the position? Maybe even which of the guys you've worked with in the past might end up a goalie coach themselves one day?
Carey's one of the. If he's not, he disagree. He'll tell me right away why you want me to change that, and I have a sell job to do it, and that's sometimes it's just the first time the goalie are not sure, just try it. If you don't feel good, we'll talk about that. But Carey is one of them. I used to have a Abby who used to be like that. Not too many, honestly.
Or who might be a goalie coach themselves one day because of their passion for the position and understanding it.
Oh, there's so many. I used to Patrick Lalime. I used to tell him you're going to be a very, very goalie coach because he asks a lot of questions. He likes the pushing of the goaltender. Anthony Niemi is the guy who was trying to learn about the game. We spend a lot of time in that room here as you watch every detail, and after the game, you want to see some stuff right away because you'll think too much about that when you won't sleep. And Anthony Niemi always tells me he's going to be a very good goalie coach. Peter Budaj, he's a guy who's unbelievable too. He liked to learn the positioning as a goalies, and that's another one. I think is going to be he could be a very good goalie coach if you want. My brother Jimmy,
he's a very good goalie coach.
He's a very good goalie coach, but he's a guy who was very picky on the detail, and we spent a lot of time when we were young and still talking about goaltending. GF Labbé is a goalie coach in San Diego with Anaheim Farm Team. He's a kid who I used to coach a lot in minor hockey in Sherbrooke. He came to my goalie school. He was so young, and he became a good goalie coach. He still worked at my goalie school, and he became a very good goalie coach. So that's funny because I got a lot of Danny Sabourin, who's still he's with Rouen.
Yeah, I had him in Vancouver, got to know him, so I'm not surprised at all.
Exactly. Yeah, I knew he was going to be a very good goalie coach. I had him for 3 years junior in Sherbrooke, so he'll be a goalie coach in NHL one day, I believe. So there's a lot of kids like that who I used to coach, and they become a very good goalie coach because they got all the same things. They got the passion. That's the most important thing. When you start as a goalie coach in minor hockey or even midget AAA junior, you don't make a lot of money with that. You do it because you got a passion. That's the only way to do it. If you don't have that passion, do something else.
How cool is it to have Jimmy be a goalie coach? Like, you were his goalie coach, and now he's coaching in the NHL, and he's coaching in Chicago, and that's got to be a pretty neat experience for you two to go through that together.
Oh, that's great. I'm pretty proud of him. When I recommend Jimmy to the Blackhawks, I remember Joel called me and said, I need a recommendation. Do you know a goalie coach who will teach like you, think like you, the same style as you? And I said, I don't know. They're the good goalie coach. You're already under contract somewhere. So I don't know, Joel. Let me think about that. So I called him a couple hours later and said, I got one. My brother. I remember Joel's reaction. Said, "Are you kidding me?" I said, "No. You're looking for something, someone like me, or is teaching the same thing, the same philosophy." And said, "I got one. Jimmy played pro for 20 years. He's a goalie coach in the Quebec League and Chicoutimi for the last 3 years. He worked with me in the summertime and my goalie school." He think like me. He's like me. He's a mini me. So he said, so they interview him and they hire him, and he's still there for. He's there for 6 years. And he won a Stanley Cup, and he's doing a great job. So that's I'm very proud of him. You're right, Kevin. That's cool.
Now, coming home? Like we talked about this when you got the job. This is also pretty cool. Like to be back in your hometown, in your home area, coaching the goalie coach of the Montreal Canadiens. A team that you grew up cheering for. We saw the picture of Ken Dryden on the wall, your favorite goalie. Like, what's this been like?
Oh, that's great. I've been very fortunate to coach with the Chicago Blackhawks and Montreal Canadiens. Might be one of the two best organizations in the league. So, but honestly, there was a tough decision when I left Chicago. We just won the Stanley Cup in 2013. And my contract was up, and they offered me a pretty good offer in Chicago to stay there. But in the same time, Montreal shows up and they want to talk to me. And the timing was perfect for me. I just spent 10 years in Chicago, and always dreams to be here with Montreal Canadiens at one time before the end of my career. And there was three things in that decision. There was first of all, come back home. That was important to me and my family, and work with the Montreal Canadiens. That's huge for me. And one of the biggest things was to work with Carey Price. And I remember it was in Chicago, and I always imagined me working with Carey Price. I knew exactly what I want to do with him. I knew exactly what kind of goalie he can become, and that was another big thing in my decision to work with Carey.
Had that been everything you dreamed it could be? Like, is that opportunity to work with him? I think no secret that whether it's us as fans of him as a person and as a goalie or around the world, a lot of people think he's the best goalie. Has that experience been everything you thought it would be?
Yeah, exactly. Everything happened like I thought, and so far so good. Knock on wood. But I agree. I think he's for sure he's one of the best goalies in the world. To me, he's the best goalie in the world. The way he prepares, the way he works every day, the way he focuses, the way his body language now, his attitude, but mostly the way he prepares every day. That's impressive. He's a real pro, and I got just a lot of respect for him. And at the end of the day, he deserves that. He's the guy who stopped the puck at the end, and he's got all the credit for that.
We hear that phrase a lot. He's a real pro, or you need to learn to be a pro. Can you tell the youngsters out there listening, what does that mean? What is it like
huge.
to be an NHL goaltender, and what's expected of one?
That's huge. To me, consistency, that's equal two things. Your base as a technical basis, and your preparation, game preparation. That's equal consistency. That's easy to say, okay, that goalie is pretty good, but he's up and down. Sometimes he's good, sometimes he's average, sometimes bad, good, average, good, bad. There's no consistency in your games. So that's easy to say, he's a good goalie, but there's no consistency in his game. But that's a big word, but how you fix that? And to me, that's every practice, do it the right things, in control. That's all about technique. And the second thing is game preparation. Game preparation is how you eat, what you eat every day. That's part of the game preparation. How you rest yourself, what time you go in the bed. Your rest is so important as a goalie. You can't focus if you're not rested. How you practice every day, how you stretch before, how the workout you do. The treatment you're doing every day, the video session, you come in every day and focus on the detail on video session. You ask questions, the way you prepare before the games, the way you assist to the team meeting, PK meeting, and stuff like that. That's huge. Game preparation is huge. The way you, what time you arrive, you get to the rink before the game to make sure you focus on the right things, you fix your equipment, you adjust everything. That's part of the game preparation. That's huge. Like I said, that starts with how you eat, how you practice, how you sleep, how you take care of your body, how you train off ice, how you train on the ice, the good habit on the ice, video session. That's huge. How you focus on the opponent, how you know your opponent. That's game preparation is huge. And to me, that's bring consistency. You give it a chance. You give you a chance to succeed every day. That's huge for me.
And how do you teach that to the young prospects that are coming into the organization? Carey, of course, has his routine, does his thing, but now you bring a goaltender in who's been drafted recently. How do they learn to fit into that lifestyle?
But I talk a lot with Marco about that kind of stuff. And Marco, that's his job to do it. That and
Marco Marciano, the development coach.
Marciano, our goalie coach in Laval. We talk about a lot of those kind of things and my philosophy, how I think, and he's pretty good to that too. So we're on the same page on almost everything, which is good. And so in the prospect camp, I have the chance to meet our prospect. I'm gonna talk about that the game preparation, how huge it is for me. The good habit off ice, how you eat, sleep, all the stuff like that. That's so huge. So we talk about that in the summertime, and Marco take over during the hockey seasons, and the other things when you come here at the camp, the main camp, just watching Carey Price, for them, that's huge. Michael McNevin a couple of years ago, he was so impressed to be in the same locker room as Carey and on the same ice, and they just watching him. And they learn a lot every day. When we call up a goalie, Charlie Lindgren, you watch Carey in the gym, in the training rooms, and before practice, after practice, and they're all watching Carey, and he's the best example. Just watch him, we learn a lot.
Oh, it's funny. We said, because we've said the same thing. Because Carey, we talk about what you do on the ice, crease movement patterns. Little kids probably think it's boring, something they do at goalie school. Go do crease movement patterns. But you watch Carey, and he'll tell you the whole foundation of his game is movement. He's always doing crease movement patterns.
At my goalie school, I always tell my kids most of the drill what I'm doing at my goalie school with the kids at 8, 9, 10 years old. We're doing the same drills with Carey Price almost every week. So still the basis. I know that's not fun to just move around the crease, no shots, but that's the base. That's the most important thing. Before you have fun, you got to go through that stuff. But if you don't like that, you don't have the passion. If you don't have the passion, you got no chance.
We talk about crease movement, and we saw you took us through on a tour of the Canadiens locker room. Thank you very much. That's a pretty big treat
pleasure,
for us. Yeah. We'll share some photos on social for our InGoal magazine fans that couldn't be here with us, but we noticed Steve Mason blockers in there, and we thought, left behind. But no, one for each of your goalies, because you have adapted drills where you've got a blocker on each end, and they're holding like a stick out in front of them.
Yeah.
That evolution of those types of drills, just walk us through why you have the guys wear two blockers and do those drills as an example of the constant evolution of the position.
Oh, yeah, exactly. And that's those two blocker drills I'm doing with Carey and Henty last year. I do it in my goalie school too. That's good for the kids. It's just basic. It's just technical basis. Just stay compact and turn your head, your hips, and turn your shoulders on the recovery stuff. And that's help a lot. And we have to hold the stick, a short stick, very short stick. You don't have to, you can stretch, you can open up your leg or your arms so that you stay compact, and that's the purpose of that drill. I kind of start a couple of years ago when I was thinking about something new. That's one of the example of I use on my goalie school, and now with NHL goalies.
No reaching, right? You don't want them. You want them to stay together.
Don't reach. Unless that's a desperation sake,
right?
Right. Let's go. What it takes, but in practice, you want just good stuff. Don't reaching.
Okay, when you mentioned the goalie schools a couple times, I know they're sold out, but walk us through your summer, because you still do like to get out in the community and work with young goalies, with the goalie schools, but also with a video series.
Yes, but that's very important. Next summer, it's going to be my 31 years as my goalie coach. We celebrate the 30th anniversary last year. So to me, that's something important to come back to the basis every summer, work with the kids. I just enjoy that. I don't need to have a goalie coach anymore, a goalie school anymore, but I still have my goalie school because I like to work with the kids. And in the same times, we start almost 2 years ago, a video series about just fundamental stuff. I did it for the kids at 8 to 13 years old. That's just basic. And there's a lot of kids they don't have those kind of goalie coach, so that's gonna help us a lot. And it's the same thing for the parents. Some parents, they want to help their kids, they don't know how. That's perfect tools for them. And the minor hockey coaches will start, at home, Pee-wee. They got no clue what to do with their goalies during practice. So that's a great tools for them. We demonstrate that the techniques. We explain the techniques, and we got a couple drills to practice that technique. And that's most of those drills. That's not for the elite goalie. That's really for the beginners to 13 years old. But most of those drills, I'll do the same drill with the NHL goalies. and that's just the basic things. And so far, this has been very, very well. We got the DVD available here in Quebec province on almost every sports store, so goalie shops and stuff like that. And we got the online, that's French and English, and online we're doing very well too. So that's a good tools for the kids and the parents and the minor hockey coaches. So I'm pretty proud of it, and that's so far so good.
Rightfully so. And so it's a DVD series. Is there can they do it online, download and look at it as well? So they don't have to get a physical DVD.
No, that's online too on my website at École Gardien de But Stephane Waite .com. But yes, that's it's easy to find online.
We'll make sure we leave a link with the show notes so everybody will be able to see that.
Sure, we
if you didn't study your high school French well enough to pick up that address,
exactly.
I can do it. Kevin can't.
Yeah, I can. I've already been called an American on this trip because I couldn't read the menu. So, and just for our listeners, and you can check out the social media channels and InGoalMag.com. We'll have a special offer from Steph, a discount code on that. So, like I said, had a chance to look at some of this stuff. It really is perfect that we tend to look at a lot of the advanced stuff, but this really is a nice foundation for kids. And as you said, it still applies right up to the NHL level. So we appreciate that.
All start with the good foundation. And a lot of kids doesn't have access to a goalie, a good goalie coach. A lot of got access to the good goalie coach, but there's still a lot of they don't have access. So that's a great tools for those kids. And like I said, I'm pretty proud of that videos series.
You've been in the game for so long, coaching for so long. The position has evolved so much. We're just talking about how there aren't a lot of resources out there for people. So how did you evolve with the game?
Oh, that's a good question. I start, like I said, 30-some years ago with the Jacques Plante books and stuff like that.
Still have that one at home.
Yeah, me too. I still have that one. And I bought everything I can find when I was a kid. And I couldn't go on the internet because it didn't exist. But no. I got a couple old stuff from Jacques Plante. I just try to learn, just focus on goaltending every time I watch the game on TV or the rink. Just focus on goalies, what they're doing, tendencies, and why you do it, that, and how we can change that approach, and just focus on it. And that was the way to learn back then. And they didn't have you can go take a seminar or someone. It didn't exist back then. So just learn by yourself, and just about the passion. But with the Tretiak, he had a couple whole book from Tretiak. I read that. A couple whole book too came from the whole Czechoslovakia, and with Vladimir Zorilla, and I find everything I could, and I try to take what is good, and just start like that. And after that, but video, and try to learn that. And the most important thing, try to be open mind. Try to be ready to change your approach or your mindset about that. That's unbelievable. I've been in the NHL for 16 years, and a lot of stuff I used to do 16 years ago, I can't do that anymore.
Not even close.
I have to involve with the game every year, and that's the reason why right now I'm watching every playoff games. I need to know. I want to see the tendencies, the goalie's tendencies. Okay, this one is got pretty good at it. I like that. This one, I'm not sure about that move, or the way he played, or too aggressive, or too whatever. That's important to watch every. To me, that's important to watch every game as much as possible. I'm still learning. I still try to figure out stuff, or see new tendencies. That's very important, and that's how you were. I think I still in the game even. And I think I got that. Unfortunate because right now I think I know the new stuff in goalies, but I knew the whole stuff too. At the new goalie coach doesn't know.
There you go.
And
bigger toolkit.
So exactly. So, and like I said 30 minutes ago, not because it's old that's bad. There's a lot of stuff still good, and that's all techniques. Sometimes you gotta need it. You gotta use. That's another tools in your box. So that's important.
The game is evolving. We're spending a lot more time on our feet than we did before. So
Exactly. And as you know, I think so. A lot of old stuff are coming back in the game. Stay on your feet. Stay on your feet. Stay on your feet. A couple of years ago, everyone's are going down too early. Not for nothing, just too early. Be patient. Stay on your feet. That's coming back. The whole time the goalie stay on your feet, and that's coming back. So the shooter is going to have to adjust to that.
speaking of patient, you've been really patient with us today. Thank you.
Oh, but my pleasure. I can talk about goaltending for 3 days in a row.
Stefan, we
Too
can't.
bad we have a flight to catch.
Yeah, I was gonna say, wait, hey, don't be careful when you say that. We might take you up on that.
I think Marco was about 4 hours last night.
Oh, yeah, he's pretty good at it. That's good.
So, hey, listen, thank you so much for doing this, for bringing us in here, but also for over all the years, just being so gracious with your time too. All the knowledge you've had to be open to share it with us and stuff. We can't thank you enough. We learn every time we get to talk to you, and I hope you know how much we appreciate the privilege.
But thank you very much. And to be honest, I learned too, just watching InGoal magazine all the time. So I learned too.
We'll be clipping that one, and we're using that promotion.
That's
Thanks,
good.
Steph. Thank
All
you.
right, merci beaucoup.
Fascinating to be able to sit around and have the time to just talk hockey and let a conversation breathe with somebody like Stephane Waite. I didn't realize it, but he didn't play. I thought Stephane played a little bit beyond junior. Jimmy, we all know about, great World Junior and had a pro career. But Steph this is what he is, and that parallel between the Waites and the Allairs is right there. A couple of things that jumped out at me. He wants to see something special in a goalie, something different, and good drill suggestions, guys. And Hutch, I think that was your question, for minor hockey coaches to include improve goalies' mobility. So Hutch, just play off this interview, and Woody chime in as well.
I mean, in terms of that question, I thought it was almost a textbook answer from him, exactly what we would hope to hear in terms of the advice given to young goaltenders, to goaltending coaches, and to minor hockey coaches. I think the message is absolutely on point, and I hope people took note. The fact that goaltenders need an opportunity to rest and to recover, that we need to keep it simple and have a little bit of structure in what we're doing in practice. That was one of the things that I asked him about, because it had really stood out to me in some of those examples that we've seen on social over the years, where you'll see Carey Price working through a very, very basic drill where he's doing something that I think probably would annoy a few 9-year-olds who would respond, I already know how to do that, going fairly slowly through some motions and a very expected save. You heard him even say in the interview that he asked his shooters at all his camps that they have to hit a particular spot. Does that make things too easy for goaltenders? Not at all, because he then wants them to be able to put those skills on autopilot in a game situation and react in a more instinctive way. So I thought that was fantastic, and let's not forget that he did mention to us as we were walking through there that he would fully support Carey throwing a few more 2-pad stacks in this year, Kev.
Yeah, absolutely. The willingness, you build the box and the structure in practice, but the willingness to go outside of it seems to be something that he stressed. To me, the one thing that jumped out is, I knew that going back to Montreal was a big deal for him because it's his hometown. Couldn't have been easy to leave Chicago even for an opportunity like that. But just when he talked about how much of that decision involved the chance to work with Carey, that was the first time I'd heard that. I probably would have guessed it played a role, but I didn't realize that, it was that big of a role. And it makes you realize just how special an athlete he has there in Montreal. And yeah, the rest of the stuff, some great questions, Hutch. I think he said the same. So a little back pat from me to you on that one, and just got him talking about, themes I think that we've seen from some of the goalies, like Carey himself. Every time we get to spend that day with him and talk to him and see him when he comes through town in practice, crease movement is just an absolute foundation, and he does a ton of it. And you're right, a lot of kids would be like, come on, let's get some drills, let's get some pucks, let's get some live ammo, let's get going here. And no, it's all about movement. When we talk about what makes Carey so special, that efficiency, that ability to always sort of be in position, that all starts with being able to move. And that's something that he works an absolute ton on. And I'm not surprised it's mirrored in what his goalie coach wants out of drills.
And I would just throw in, let's not forget his relationship with all the goaltenders along the years. So he was happy to move to Montreal for the opportunity to work with Carey. But that week had been texting with Corey Crawford and mentioned texting with, I think it was Habby as well. He's got a relationship with all of these guys that he's worked with. And to be a good teacher, the foundation is in a good relationship with your pupils. Everybody's different. Everybody learns differently. The old school, it's my way or the highway, is gone. We know that with young people in schools today, and it's true at the NHL level as well. So I loved hearing that piece of it. So goalie coaches, player coaches out there, listen to that.
I've got one for you then, because Steph, I thought it was a great statement, a great quote. Steph said, "Feel like his goalies feel." Like he has to put himself in that position to really understand what they're going through and how they look at it. So if there's a back and forth, and he's comfortable with that back and forth with his goalies, that's at a pro level. When we're talking about kids at goalie camps, when is the time, or a kid with his goalie coach in minor hockey, when do you think is the right age for a goalie to start challenging a goalie coach or having that conversation?
I think if it's respectful, we see it in schools at all ages now, and it has to be respectful, and you have to have a teacher who's willing to hear it. You have to pick your spots. I wouldn't see it, especially with a young person, as you need to challenge your coach. But I think it's perfectly okay for a goaltender of any age, a player of any age, to simply ask, "Great, happy to do that. Can you explain to me why we're doing it this way?" That'll just help me understand what I'm doing better. That's different than, "I disagree with you. I like to do it this way." I always teach the kids I work with, and I've heard many coaches say the same thing. You may or may not agree with what I'm going to show you here. You may or may not prefer to do it this way, but it's just another tool to put in the toolkit, and give it a go and see what works for you. Another thing that Steph mentioned, right? He works with his goaltenders, asking them to try a variety of different save selections in the same scenario, so that you can throw shooters off balance a little bit. Well, I think it's important that kids recognize that with different coaches that they work with. There's different ways to do things. As long as you're respectful in asking why you're doing something, I think any age you should be allowed to do that now.
Spot on, Hutch, because I can almost guarantee this. I don't like to speak for Woody, but I think he and I are cut from a similar cloth, that we'd be both of the ilk saying, "What are you talking about? I don't want to do that." And Hutch, you're the voice of reason on this thing.
The diplomat, yeah.
Thanks, Dad.
What's the thanks, Pops. The discount code, you guys mentioned it in the interview, but the discount code for people to follow up on.
Steph gave us a website. Kevin, can you pronounce that website?
Oh, come on. You're going to put me on the spot like this? It's École Gardienne S Waite, or écolegardienswaite.com. I'm going to spell it ECOLEGARDIENSWAITE.com, and that is Stephane Waite's goaltending school website. The discount code, don't interrupt me, Dad. The discount code is InGoal Mag. That will get you 20% off the sort of 6-lesson DVD set that he has. You can download it, as we talked about in the interview. You don't have to buy the DVD, because I'll be honest, how many of us even have something you can plug a DVD into anymore? You can download it and just have it on video, put it on your device, put it on your iPad, put it on your computer, watch it that way. Just to reiterate, though, it really is, this was a gap that Steph saw in teaching. A lot of the stuff online was focused towards older kids. or advanced goaltenders. And I think we've been guilty of that at times at InGoal, right, Hutch, over the years, where you kind of you always want the pro or the junior in the video, and we kind of miss the 7 to 13-year-olds, and that's who Steph has built this video series for. Evidently, it sells really well in Quebec. It is bilingual. You can have it in English or French. So the rest of us who don't parlez-vous le français, which was me. I was called an American at a restaurant while we were in Montreal for my inability to read the menu. There is something here for you too. You'll be able to understand it. So listen, this is not the best format for giving out codes and websites. Make sure you check out the InGoal social media. Make sure you subscribe to the InGoal newsletter, and we'll send out more details on that. But if you go to his website, goaltending.com, and use, you guys are just laughing at my pronunciation, and use the discount code INGOALMAG, INGOALMAG, you will get 20% off the video. Screw both of you.
I think you just ordered the light linguine, is what you really just said.
Come on.
You did well.
You did well. Yes.
This is why the waitress asked us if we were American after I stumbled through an order in Montreal. Brutal.
She then told us she was an expert at accents, so that's what I really enjoyed.
But you do live close to the border. From thoughts and philosophies to make goalie better with Stephane Waite, to the equipment that could give you or your young goalie an edge on the ice. Let's head over to the Hockey Shop, source for sports Surrey, thehockeyshop.com, and join Woody. I'm looking forward to this one. Join Woody for our weekly gear segment on pads.
Welcome back to the Hockey Shop, source for sports. We're in the basement, or as I like to call it, goalie heaven, with Cam Matwiv. We're going to talk a little pad fitting this week, but first of all, I wanted to check in. Like, we are literally days away from the biggest event of the year, Tendy Fest 4, the greatest on-ice demo session available to goaltenders anywhere. I know what a monster this is to organize. Oh, by the way, live podcast coming from Tendy Fest. How you doing? Like 3-4 days away from this monstrosity that is Tendy Fest and organizing it all. How are you doing? How are the nerves?
They're coming together. To be honest, went a little golfing this weekend. Try to relax, but I think that took my anger level up a little bit more than I wanted it to go.
Oh, you're like me on the ice, a little snaptastic, as Hutch and Darren like to talk about.
Hacker is not even the right term for me. It's that bad.
Well, hey, that's why you're good at goaltending. Got to be good at something, right? So I guess the whole thing about goaltending and golf being related is doesn't apply to you. I don't know. Anyways, Tendy Fest is a beast. You ready? You organized? Double 2 sheets of ice, double the ability to test gear, more gear than we've seen in the past. You're asked the suppliers to bring even more. Like, how good is this going to be if goalies want to come out and try something new this weekend?
Twice the ice, twice the amount of demo gear. If you had problems getting on ice in the past, if you attended, this is going to help to get you out there. Again, reiterate, make sure you're bringing all of your gear with you, head to toe. And yeah, go and rent and go have fun.
May 26th at Burnaby 8 Rinks in Vancouver from 11 o'clock to 4 o'clock, Tendy Fest 4. Now, one of the things that's part of it, obviously, is demoing gear. That's the biggest part. Again, we'll have a live podcast. There are going to be vendors there with all kinds of different opportunities to see some live mask painting, things like that. So there's tons to do, but the biggest thing is testing gear. Now, part of testing gear is fitting gear. And so I want to talk to you today about how you fit a set of pads here at the Hockey Shop.
So it all starts with skates, actually. So when it comes
so fitting pads starts with skates.
Yes.
Okay.
So a lot of people, you see them, they grab a pad and they put it up against their leg and they kind of like squish it and then they go, oh, my knee fits. Well, no, it's not how you do it. We start off, we get you in a proper fitting pair of skates, and I want you to lace up the pad how you would perceive to do it. So I get to analyze how you're strapping up the pad, kind of see some quirks and things. I learn every time I watch someone do up a set of pads because everybody always does it differently. But that said, if all of a sudden I see your bootstrap's too tight and the pad doesn't rotate, well, I can solve that right away, right? That said, they got to lace up the pad, get them to stand up, checking for the overall height. We don't want something that's going past their hip bones or anything like that. You want to be kind of just around just below crotch line in most cases, depending on the goalie. And then we get them to drop into the butterfly. And here's where most important part comes. You can't expand out as wide on the carpet here, but it gives me a pretty good read. What I'm looking for is where the knee is lining up. Center of the knee cradle. That's the biggest measurement that we all do. Now there is, everyone can go by the sergeant charts of ATKs and this, that, and the other, but what I find, those just don't line up properly in comparison to physically seeing it in the store. Again, our guys, including myself, we have the chance to be able to see exactly where your knee lines up. Again, we want that center of the knee and the center of the knee cradle, or if you're a little kid and you're growing, we put it down into that kind of lower half, but still making enough contact to get good control, but allowing for some more of growth, for example.
So, I mean, that makes sense. I never thought of that. The way you wear the pad on your skate, and obviously different pads fit differently. We've seen it a lot, with the launch of eFlex 4, with the launch of Bauer 2X Pro, both pads that have a flatter boot that are going to sit more on top of the skate versus, say the comparison product in each line is the Premier for the CCM and the 2S Pro for the Bauer, both with a steeper boot that are going to sit higher. Again, having that on your foot or just measuring it up to your knee while you're standing there in a pair of shoes really isn't the same as how it's going to interact when you've got a pair of skates on when you're actually on the ice. So you actually take the step and dress them up. Like that's a pretty big step, getting guys to lace up skates and adding that process, but it's key for you guys.
Exactly. I mean, on the weekend, you can see about like 4 or 5 hybrid half-dress goalies kind of hobbling around the department usually. But no, it makes that much of a difference. Again, you can get a general read without, but you got to have the skates on. You got to put everything on. We don't usually do our fits with pants.
I was going to ask you, what about other components? Do you have to, is it a full Mr. Dress-Up out here?
We can. And now it really depends on how intricate you want to take it. Now, I can personally get a pretty good read on how the pad's going to amalgamate with a set of pants, even without them on, depending on what the customer's using. That said, for customers that want that full feel, on a lot of my custom gear fittings for lake pads and whatnot, we'll go that full setup. I've had guys even throw on the chest protector just to see it all integrate everything all together. Don't necessarily have to, but if you want the total feel wise, what better way? I mean, we've got them on the wall, just grab one, right?
Nice. So, okay, and what about e-pads? Because you talk about skates interacting with the boot of a pad, and clearly that affects how it fits on a leg, boot strap, whether you do it up, all those things. What about knee pads? Because we've seen, especially as an older goalie, maybe junior kids go to a more of a wider fitting pro model knee pad. How that fits with the knee stack can maybe affect, or different brands with different size knee stacks can affect sort of that clearance and how they might do it up. Do you go that far as well?
For sure. We start off in the beginning without it, so that way I can see exactly where that knee fits. And then once, we want to feel the integration of the knee pad, usually we'll kind of go to that after, because the one thing, the knee pad won't change where the center of the knee fits. However, it will change everything around that. So if you're already sitting low inside of a knee cradle, i.e. I fit you for growth room, when you toss on that knee pad, you're now creating more surface area and more pressure on the knee cradle. So it'll give the illusion of a better fitting pad at that point, when even though we still have extra growth room. A lot of guys, like a true pro fit, your knee pad in theory should be overlapping off the top of the knee cradle. That would mean the center of your knee is dead center. So it definitely comes into play. For a starting basis, I usually go without it, and then once I kind of dial in the pad for the customer, then we start to talk about the knee pad conversation.
Okay, so it's important not to have it, you could basically get a misread on where that knee is sitting if you have too big of a knee pad in that initial stage of the fitting, so you save it for later. That makes perfect sense. Okay. That's amazing. That's so, really, it is like Mr. Dress Up here on a Saturday afternoon, 3-4 goalies walking around doing carpet flies, just like we do at home, except for they're doing it before they buy the pads, so that they know that they fit correctly. I actually want to come see this on a Saturday. I always hit you up midweek for these. One of the few times this place isn't just jammed with goalies, but I might have to come in on Saturdays. It's like an episode of Mr. Dress Up. You're probably too young for Mr. Dress Up and his tickle trunk. Don't look at me like it's not like that. It's not like that. Don't go there.
Viewers, help us.
If you're as old as me, you'll remember that. Okay, so Dress Up at the hockey shop on a weekend. Come to get fit. This is why we come here, because these guys understand how goalies work, how to fit a goalie, how to make sure if you're a young goalie growing up, you have room to grow, but you're actually going to have a pad that works for you. Is that ever a conversation where dad or mom wants more room to grow, and yet that pad's just too tall for a kid? Is that one? How do you walk the line on that one?
It's almost a daily conversation, to be honest. I mean, you want to get the best cost per value out of, whatever product you're buying, for sure. Between the parents, the goalie, and, the staff, not just myself, it's about, the trust factor of like, hey, we've got enough room here, but anything beyond this, like, son and or daughter's not going to be able to move, right? So the bottom line,
if it's too big and they can't move, you're defeating the purpose.
Well, what's the point? Like, you can't force a pad to fit if it's not fitting properly. Like, there's different ways you can kind of bring the pad down, haul on that bootstrap a little bit more, but you lose a little bit because of that, this, that, and the other, right? But that said, again, that's why we usually say the center of the knee and that lower portion of the knee block, especially for those kids, that's that growth room. Anything more than that, the pad's just going to get too sloppy.
Okay, perfect. This is why I really enjoyed this. Like I said, this is why we come to the hockey shop for this type of expertise. Guys that are fitting you in pads are guys that play the position. They're goalies. They understand all these things. They've been doing it like Cam has for years. They know how it works. They know you need to put on a pair of skates to properly fit a set of pads, and that's something, to be honest with you, I hadn't even thought of. So fantastic information. I'll be honest with you, I think we got to do more of this type of fitting stuff. We always talk about new products and what's coming in, but I really enjoyed this. I think this will help a lot of young goalies and parents, especially when it comes time to fit in their next set. So thanks, Cam. Thanks for doing this.
Hey, not a problem.
And see you at TendyFest.
See you at TendyFest.
May 26th, 11 to 4 o'clock at Burnaby 8 Rinks. Live podcast, all the demo gear you can try, 2 sheets of ice to try it on, live demonstrations, mass painting, all kinds of different products on display in the vendor area. Chance to maybe meet me, Dave Hutchison, Darren Millard's flying out from Toronto for our live podcast. Guests include Pete Smith, Alex Ald, reps from CCM, Bauer, all coming up. But most importantly, folks, if you come to TendyFest, you have an opportunity to meet the one and only Cam Matwiff. Cam, thanks for taking the time.
Thanks, Kevin.
Yeah, getting properly fitted, that has evolved so much, because it used to be properly fitted was just measuring up to your thigh, where you wanted the pad in the thigh. Then it was the ATK, ankle to knee, right?
Yep.
And now going in with basically your full gear and doing it. I did ATK for a couple of sets ago, and it was slightly off, and it just because I would slide off my knee block. So it's important to have that full on fitting to it, and it's a little more challenging for Hutch because you've got Maddie there that's growing. So that's an interesting question, right? Like, how much do you factor in growth?
Well, yeah, and Cam talked about it in the segment, talked about making sure that the knee still at least is on the bottom part of the knee stack. At the end of the day, if the knee's not hitting it at all, you're hindering the kid at the beginning, even if you've left him room to grow. Right. And the pad's probably too tall for him, and then he can't move, and now you got a goalie that can't move, and that's no good either. As much as it sucks, there's only so much you can do.
I would way rather err on the side of being too small for a youngster, because then they've got mobility, and we want them to be mobile and we want them to be fast. Obviously, we want them protected, but that's rarely the question. But yeah, it's a tough one for sure.
Well, and like I said, that's why we refer to the guys at the hockey shop. I thought Cam did a good job in that segment of breaking it down. And if you go there, you sort of have guys that understand these questions, have played the position, have been through it themselves in terms of growing through pads, and they're going to give you similar answers to what Hutch just gave, but with 10 years of fitting experience. So that's why we go to thehockeyshop.com and the Hockey Shop, source for sports in Surrey.
I may talk to Cam for 5 hours on my own at TendyFest. We also have our review on InGoalMag.com on the Bauer 2X Pro line. It's up.
Yeah, another tour de force by Woody, who writes a master's thesis for each one of these things. He writes as much as he talks, but equally intelligent on paper as he is with his voice. So, no, really, it's incredible the work that gets put into these, and we're really proud of what we did there. So go take a look at InGoalMag.com. Find the review for the 2X Pro. You'll see some great visuals. You'll see a little video of Kevin strapping them up. You'll hear all the insights into what's changed, and then leave a comment. Let us know what you think. We'd like to know how you feel about these reviews. What do you need more of? What do you need less of? How can we make them better for you?
And I think we should stress, too, on these reviews that we sort of started in both cases, CCM eFlex 4 a couple weeks ago, and now with the 2X Pro from Bauer. More of an overview because we hadn't had it as long as we like, and we'll continue to follow up. It would be one thing for me to be the only guy wearing the pads and give you my opinion, but that's just my opinion. To really test it, we feel like we have to get it out there. I got eFlex 4 right now out with the junior A goalie. I got Bauer 2X Pro going out again on Friday with a different junior A goalie from a different league, guys who wear different equipment. We really try and get as many voices as we can at as many different levels, including beer league schmucks like myself, up-and-coming kids, junior goalies. Later in the summer, we have an opportunity to get feedback from pros as well. This isn't just one guy telling you how they like the gear or repeating company lines. We really do try and get some of the feedback from guys who play at a pretty high level and share that with our readers. So look for that to continue on both lines as we move through the summer.
I know you work the keys on the laptop in writing that synopsis of the 2X Pro line. You didn't just dictate it, because we got a great text from you earlier today in which you were using the voice activation. And my response was, what the hell did he just say? I had no idea. So just stick to the type.
You know what?
Okay?
Evidently, Apple CarPlay doesn't speak French either.
Yeah, you're having trouble finding a language these days. InGoalMag.com is the place to get that Bauer 2X Pro review. Some good browsing as we travel to Burnaby 8 Rinks on May 26th for Tendy Fest 2019. We'll have a full recap of that coming up in the next couple of weeks, as well as a live podcast from your friends here at InGoal Radio, the podcast. Come by, say hi. We'd love to meet all our InGoal Radio listeners. A good way to find out what you like, what you'd like to hear in future episodes as well. So give us your thoughts. For Hutch and Woody, our thanks to Cam and Stephane. I'm Darren Millard. If you could quantify knowledge by holding it in your hand, then we've all added a little extra weight after this show. Thanks for listening. Send us your thoughts anytime. We're happy to hear from you. And make sure you check out InGoalMag.com and thehockeyshop.com. Bye for now.